Today we'll be talking about Bakuman and why you should watch it, why I personally think it's a masterpiece, why I feel like it's a little bit underrated. So before we get into it, I'm going to give a quick little synopsis about Bakuman in case you haven't watched it or you're planning to. Basically, Bakuman is about two guys who want to create their own manga and eventually turn it into an anime, and the main kind of driving force sort of behind it is one of the guys basically proposed to a girl and said, when you become the heroine or when you voice act the heroine of our anime, then do you want to get married, right? So from then on, they kind of have like this passion for manga. Obviously, it's not just the romance behind it, although I will give a little disclaimer, the romance is kind of like iffy, but we'll get into that later. The main point is these two guys who have a very big burning passion for anime and manga, specifically mangaka. Eventually they'll turn into an anime and so on and so forth. They have a burning passion for the manga, they're trying to make one, and they're trying to basically be the best that there possibly is. So let's jump into what makes it good and why you should watch it. It's an earlier slice of life. I feel like, I'm pretty sure it got released somewhere between late 2000s, early 2010s. I feel like slices of life back then were much better than they are now, because I feel like there's so many now. You know, at the time it was kind of quality over quantity, now it's kind of quantity over quality, if that makes sense, in terms of what's on the market right now for slice of life mangas and animes. However, there are some that are good. I feel like it's less likely you run into one that's really good compared to what we had back then. On top of that, the slice of life doesn't have like a huge focus on romance. I would say like that's its slight downside, seeing as that's kind of like the main turning point in like his decision to become a mangaka. However, I feel like if you shouldn't like focus on that too much. I feel like if you focus on the romance aspect too much, you'll kind of lose the plot in a sense. It's more of kind of like a driving factor behind the fact. So as long as you don't focus too much on the romance, you'll be fine. The second reason is the relatable characters and the characters having good synergy with each other. The characters, like, chemistry is kind of like a big thing, I'm gonna say, in terms of how the characters work, and there's a big sense of community, right? So mangaka, right, when they work together, I don't know if you know, but like in real life, a lot of mangakas have a very like they hold each other in high regard. Like, and you'll see in the anime, if you decide to watch it or if you decide to read it, that manga creation isn't as easy as it seems. It's not just drawing and stuff. It's a lot of meeting deadlines. You have to go to different places, different events. You got to meet a lot of people. There's a lot of sort of thought and plan that goes into it, right, to make it as good as it can be. There's a lot of like different heartbreaks when it comes to how well or bad a series can do, right? So like mangakas have a lot of kind of respect for each other, and that really shows throughout the anime and really builds a sense of community, especially in different events that you'll see all of them go to. It's really nice, and it's kind of like a nice breath of fresh air. It doesn't feel like everyone's like genuinely out to get each other. Everyone wants to see everyone win, sort of, in a way. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously, like, you want your manga to do as good as it can, right? But if you're friends with the other mangaka, like, you're not gonna like hate on them. Furthermore, like I said before, the manga is very like realistic, right? Since it's an older kind of slice of life, I feel like it hasn't blown a bunch of realist or like real themes or like life themes out of proportion. It seems very like contained and very like normal. Like this, like you'd see situations within the anime or manga that you'd see in everyday life. It's very like, there are very realistic themes of like loss, like pursuing something you really desire, basically like the grind. It feels so real. There's a lot of dialogue, I will say that, but at the same time, I feel like that dialogue is necessary to kind of comprehend and understand how the characters kind of move on with and around each other. I feel like the themes within Bakuman is very realistic, especially when it comes to like, you know, doing your best, right, grinding, and, you know, making sure that even though it may not be in the best situation, that there can always be a better one, right? And just pushing each other to move forward and do as good as you can. I read this somewhere on the internet, but it was someone said something along the lines of like, if you're a content creator or if you do art or stuff like that, right? If you create something, if you're a creator, right, in any way, shape, or form, you're gonna really like Bakuman, and I feel like that's very true. If you're passionate about creating something, Bakuman is just the manga or the anime for that. It's very kind of centered around creation and the ups and downs of it. Another thing I want to say for you to properly enjoy this is do not compare it to anything else. Just take it at face value. I decided to look at some negative reviews to see what people didn't like about it. And it was kind of like a similar trend of, oh, well, compared to this or compared to that, it's not as good. I feel like you should just take it for what it is. Again, it's a 2008 or 2009, whatever, manga. So obviously, if you compare it to something newer where, you know, they have something better to build off of, I feel like then maybe you're killing the enjoyment. If you just take it at what it is, go through the characters, how they go through it, right? Read what they're, you know, what they're going through and the situations they're in. Obviously, the manga has some downsides. There's no perfect manga. I feel like the way it is, the way it's set up, and the way it goes is very good. Overall, though, that's why I think you should watch Bakuman. It's a very nice breath of fresh air. I think it's great. It's a masterpiece when it comes to content creation and how kind of that content gets pushed out while still having a kind of good, like, dramatic / realistic life sort of aspect thrown into it. And I think it's very good. If you've watched it, let me know what you think. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.